All right, what's up, madlang people? Welcome to Laro. Um, what episode is this, John? I've lost track.
18.
This is episode 18. All right, so we got a special guest right now. Um, he actually is a board game developer. He's also into gaming. He has a cause. I won't tell you right now. I'll let him tell you all about it, but it's great. That's the reason why we have him right now in this show because it's really interesting on what he's doing here. Yeah, so let me welcome Juan Lopez.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Good, good, good. How are you, man?
I'm good. Enjoying my day off.
All right. So, how long have you been here in the Philippines? What are you doing here, man?
Yeah, it's been almost 3 years now. We moved with my family in 2016 for a mission work.
Okay.
So we've been missionaries here in the Philippines since 2016.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, what made you go into this? Because you have a thesis about board games and everything. But first, how did you get into that? How did you get into like creating board games and all that? Because it's a so-called niche title, being a board game developer. We've had several board game developers here on the show, and they're saying that it's really a niche market. Very few actually do it, but when you get into it, it's really an interesting line of work that you do. So, I mean, what's your story here?
Okay, so just to make it clear from the start, I do not develop game for a commercial purpose. So I don't come from a background of economy or business or advertisement. I don't have any whatsoever interest in that aspect of the gaming. So to give you a little bit of background about why do I do game and what the purpose of them. So I started in the 80s, so a long time ago.
Okay.
So I started first, like a lot of kids in Europe, with the Fighting Fantasy series book that were developed at that time by Young Livingstone, the guys who created Games Workshop.
Okay. Wow. All right.
And so they had the series of books where you are the heroes, but there was a combat system with dice. That was extremely good. It's still very active today. They're still publishing books. It's very adapted to the phones and the video games. You can find that on any platform today. Fighting fantasy books.
Oh yeah.
Interactive books. And so that was my beginning. So that's early 80s, and that led me to do role-playing games. A lot of role-playing games. That's my gaming background. It's writing scenarios and DMing and playing and doing a lot of conventions. I started when I was 1986. That's when I started to do heavily conventions and writing and playing and DMing.
Wow.
That led me a lot to board games, of course. At that time, there was a lot of board games like Space Elk, Blood Bowl, or Talisman. There were already a lot of games like that around, and I did a lot of paper cut magazine. You cut a piece of paper to do war games. And I might need to say that I'm French, so I'm from France, and France the board game and the role-playing game scene started as early as 1978. So, and it was already very big. The golden age of role-playing game in France was in the 80s. So, it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. It was something different. French players like storytelling more than role-playing. So then. rolling dice. We like acting more than rolling dice, and so a lot of storytelling behind. And you can see that today in games coming from France, Time Story, Unlocks. All those games are more about the story than the system itself. So
Yeah.
so growing up in a very heavy Euro-centered role-playing game, we started to do conventions, very very big groups and live action role-playing games in very big conventions in the mid '80s. So
Oh, you do
and
you do LARPing?
a lot. European style, so with a lot heavy scenarios, a lot of court intrigues. Fighting is a small part of it; it's not the main part of it. Unlike our friends from US. So yeah, I did a lot of LARP, essentially medieval Japanese and steampunk in the '90s, essentially. And yeah, so and then I started. I got my first PC when in '86 also, and so I started to do a lot of coding at that time and basic gaming. And then it became more heavy when Fallout first came out. That's where I very got hooked into in video games. And so, but well, I was a gamer. I was a gamer before I started college. And so when I get into college, I started to study sociology and anthropology, and I started to work with children that have been suffering from PTSD and with history of violence. And so I found out that gaming was one of the key of the therapy. And that's when I started to design games, especially for the people I was working with, writing choose your own adventure books, creating board games specifically for certain situations, and developing all a system of tools for social workers and for therapy workers to help connect with kids through gaming.
So how does that, let's say, tie up into each other? And what are the cases usually for children who have PTSD? You said a violent background and all that, probably traumatic events that lead them to have this diagnosis. But what exactly specific, what factors in gaming would help alleviate this stress of PTSD?
So to give you an example, when you meet a gamer or whoever, whatever individual in society, you always try to find the codes to connect. So you're going to try to find what are the relation you can create with that person. Okay. So if you meet, I don't know, someone in the street and you start to talk, you're going to try to get some cues about what he likes. Like, for example, when I moved to the Philippines, I discovered that Filipinos like basketball. And so basketball was a way to communicate with some people, was a way to create contact. And then food is one of the major way to create communication.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you try to find a common ground to build a relationship, and then that relationship is going to evolve in good, in bad, and hopefully when it evolves in good, you're going to create trust with people, and you're going to start to go a little bit deeper in the relationship. So everybody works like that. So when you work with a kid that has been in a situation of trauma, that have been abused, or that witness extreme violence, or himself is a violent person, then there's part of that social relationship that's broken. There's a lack of trust, there's a lack of connection. And therefore, you have to create that connection. You have to build a bridge to reach the emotional state of the child so you can communicate with him. There's been a lot of studies about it, and what we found out is a lot of children, they always want to communicate. There's no children that don't want to communicate, but they will communicate in a very specific way, and our role is to find which way they are using to communicate. So I give you an example of a famous journalist that wrote a book a few years ago about his son that's autistic. He found out that his son doesn't speak at all, except when he's quoting Disney movies. So the kid's gonna answer question by Disney quotes.
Okay.
And so the father had to watch all the Disney movies to get what emotion the child is on according to the quotes of the movie. And so we do the same thing with gaming. Playing games, it's so I did a lot of research anthropologically, so very heavy social science, ethnology, and sociology, heavy stuff. And then playing is the first form of communication and learning from a child. You know, you're going to play with your friends, you're going to play with your parents, you're going to discover how the world works by try and fail. Okay, and so there's different aspects of that gaming that allows you to communicate with other people. So we try to find those bridges, and we found out that, for example, abstract games can help communicate with certain kind of autism. We found out that war games allows us to communicate with people with violent tendencies. Chess, for example, which is an abstract war game, it's used a lot. And then you have construction games where you have to build something together, cooperative games, things like that allows people to rebuild trust with other people, and so on and so on. So you find a way to get into the world of the child, into his universe, into his reality, and then through gaming, you create that bridge so you can get a glimpse of his social issues and try to heal them.
This is the first time I'm hearing that it's that you're doing it with children. But when we hear PTSD, most of the time we associate with the military and everything, right? So the studies that I've heard of is mostly like first-person shooters, or virtual reality being associated with the combat theme first-person shooter games and all that, and helping out. Being connected with PTSD. So, is your work heavily influenced by that, or you really started out just working with children from the start?
So, no, I'm not. I don't work with child soldiers, for example. I don't work with children that have been in a situation of war. Most of the kids I work with from the beginning are kids that have been sexually or physically abused.
Domestic violence mostly.
Domestic violence. Here in the Philippines, I had the chance to work with kids that have been in situation of witnessing the murder of their parents, for example, in the case of the war on drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is a little bit closer to what a child soldiers might experience because of the extreme level of violence done to someone else. When I worked in the U.S. for 7 years, and I was working essentially with kids that had themselves violence problem because they were physically abused at home, so they were not able to work in a regular school system because they were violent themselves. So you don't connect. You don't use violence to connect with violence in the case of children. Okay. Because violence to children, it's part of the trauma. So playing Call of Duty with a 6-year-old kid is a very bad idea. It's like exposing him to horror movies or porn. It's gonna create a trauma that he doesn't have conscious of. Because he doesn't perceive that reality the same way that an adult will do. Okay. There's a stage of evolution in the brain. Okay. There's a stage of evolution in the brain, and until you reach 12, 13 years old, you don't have that reaction to sex or violence the same way. And what usually, before you're 11, 12 years old, what we call the age of reason, you gonna, all this violence and all the sex gonna turn to a trauma, gonna turn to a passive pathology that can develop, that can or cannot develop later. It's not fate. Okay, it doesn't happen all the time, but it might happen. When you're older, when you pass the age of reason, then violence and sex have a different impact on yourself, and it doesn't impact your brain in the same at the same level. So with kids, that are under 12, 13 years old, before puberty hits the brain, we don't use any kind of violence with them in gaming. So we're not going to be playing realistic war games. We're not going to be playing board games based on wars, on actual wars. We're not going to be playing video games where we kill actual humans, where we're actually battling actual humans. Because that's where the fantasy and the imaginary world is so important. It's because we can use that as a metaphor. Killing another human being in a video game, we blur that line of fantasy and imagination. And so we have to be clear about how we connect with the kids. And imagination is a good tool. You know, you have a better chance to reach out to a 6-year-old kid by playing Pokemon cards or Pokemon video games than by playing Black Ops.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is the first time I'm learning that there are several stages in learning and everything. They have a certain period where the reasoning in a child's brain actually changes.
Yes.
Of course, we can first initially say that like 6-year-old kids have a different understanding of the world versus like an 11, 12-year-old kid. But the stages that you said, like the age of reasoning and everything. So at this stage, do you think if the exposure to violence from 6-year-old to 12-year-old continues, do you think that by the age of reasoning, they've already come up with how this works? It becomes normalized and want that, because we have parents being killed and several children are witness to that, even in the same room where it happened. So how are you using your same method to reach out to these kids, or have you had any instances where it is an exact victim of the war on drugs currently happening in the Philippines?
Yes. So I did a couple of camps with an organization here with kids and families. One of the parents or both parents or someone in the family has been killed during the war on drugs.
Wow. Okay.
So I want to be clear. What I'm going to say, it's not about saying if drug is good or bad, or if the murder was a good thing or not. That's not the point. Okay.
Yeah. Just the victims. Yeah.
I'm not judging the politics itself or any of all the things goes. What I want to say is that the impact on a child that witnessed a murder, it's very hard to repair. It's not repairable. It can be tamed.
Okay.
It can be processed, but the damage is done.
Okay.
There's no coming back.
Okay. Wow.
There's no coming back at all.
So it's like stained in their memory,
like, not only in the memory, in the body. There's body effect to it, and heavily answer from the body. It's like a permanent bruise, but physical permanent bruise and mental permanent bruise. So you go, and then you're gonna have you create a position of possible pathology, which can lead to someone extremely violent, someone extremely passive, so someone that's going to look for violence but without answering it, or someone that's going to reproduce what led to that violence. And that's the big problem. I give you an example.
Okay.
If your dad has been killed because he was a drug dealer, okay, let's say your dad is a drug pusher. the cops come, they kill in front of you. You see him dying because of he was a drug dealer. Okay, you're gonna pay the price of the social reality of your dad being a drug dealer. Okay? So you're gonna have the social impact at school. You're gonna have the stigmata of being a son of a guy killed because he was a drug dealer. You're gonna have the social stigmata of your neighborhood. Nobody's gonna trust you. People's gonna look at you weird. Your dad was a criminal, blah blah blah. And in very poor neighborhood, you cannot move away. You cannot just disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And if you are the older in your family, you're gonna become the breadwinner. Your dad was making money, but he's not there anymore. So you're gonna have to find a way to bring money on the table. So you are most likely in that situation to become yourself a drug dealer. There's a high risk that that's the only job option you're gonna have, because no school for you, no social relationship for you, and you're gonna have that stigmata of your dad being a drug dealer. So your brain going to process that in that way, is that this is the only life I have an option for. And so a lot of the children that witness this kind of violence are going to reproduce it. We found out that a lot of the rapists were raped themselves. A lot of the people doing violence to their spouses being themselves physically abused. So there is a cycle of violence. And that cycle of violence is what needs to be broke. That's what needs to be changed by offering options and helping the child to process their trauma in a different way.
Wow.
So it's very important to have a follow-up, to have therapy for those kids. So they will learn from that violence. And the problem with children, as you said before, you heard about studies done with adults. There's not enough people working with kids. There's not enough people working with children.
Exactly.
There's not enough studies done with kids. There's not enough workers on the field to work with those kids. I witness a lot in churches, in NGOs, and all around the world, not only here in the Philippines, but in the US, in Africa, and in Europe. I witness a lot. They put the kids in a room all together with a nanny, with a babysitter, and they give them toys, and there's that common belief that they're gonna forget, and that's a big mistake.
It's like passing the responsibility to the toy.
Exactly, and you're gonna have a lot of kids that will torture their toys, destroy them. Everybody knows the kid in Toy Story. You remember the kid in Toy Story, the first movie that was torturing the toys? Yeah, you're going to have a lot of kids like that because the toy, the game's going to become the way they're going to express their anger. And so when you have a 6-year-old kid killing every single possible thing on Grand Theft Auto without no reason, you might witness there some kind of violence that's been done to him. And I'm not saying GTA is a bad game. I'm just saying that's the kind of game that will allow people to express their violence.
Yeah.
Because it's completely free in that aspect.
Exactly. It's GTA is a pretty open game, and you have the option there to kill a lot of people in the streets. But it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make GTA condone violence in any way and everything. But because that option is open. The individual is responsible. So a kid really having a trouble would as once he finds out that's then that
and wrap up the other question. It is important that violence, sex, or extremely disturbing situation needs to be explained. So when you're playing with a kid, let's say you go to the mall with a kid, with your your niece, your cousin, your daughter, your son, and they show a video of Walking Dead, example of a popular show, or Games of Thrones. You see the mountain exploding the head of a guy with his thumbs, which actually happened in reality, and that's a true fact from history. You have to explain that to a kid, Okay, you cannot let a child see that and not having a background behind it. Violent video game is the same thing. You cannot play Doom with a kid and not explaining to him what's going on, what's the story, what's the point of it. Okay, Call of Duty is one of those games where you need a background explanation when you play with young children, or when your children are playing them. You have to explain to them. Same with horror movies. I not advise ever to play those games with younger kids. In my work, is very not suitable. But if those things happen, and you cannot protect the kids from all the violence in the world. I mean, it's all over the TV, all over the medias, everywhere. But there needs to be explanation about why those kind of things happen. Why is there a drug? Why is there a war on drug? Why is there people dying on the street? Because without explanation, children's gonna develop their own understanding of what violence is, and ultimately they're gonna believe that violence is a common way to answer.
That's correct.
To aggression.
That's it. It becomes
Physical
normalized.
violence is the ultimate reaction of a person to an aggression. So if you have, the more tool you have, the less you're going to relate on violence. Okay? A lot of studies prove that having a good knowledge of the language, having a good knowledge of the social cues, have a good knowledge of diplomacy, philosophy, all those kind of things, give you a better way to answer to violence. They just be violent. And violence is usually when you don't have any more words, when you don't have any more other options. You know.
That's right.
So if someone is violent from the beginning, it's because he has no tools. He has no way to react other than that. That's the only way he knows.
That's a good point.
You know, if people cannot have a debate without getting right away on their feet, it's because they don't know how to debate. They don't know how to put an argument. They don't know how to have a conversation. And that's what it's dangerous. It's when you let kids not talking, when you not kids having that conversation, because they will think that their words don't mean anything, and the only way they can get what they want, it's violence.
That's right. That's a good point there.
And so when you look at most of the board games or most of the video games, they all have rules. They all have limits. They all have a path to follow. They all have heavy reading text. Because game developers are those kind of games that are going to try to think about every option. Okay. And if your game has a high level of violence, I'm playing Wolfenstein right now. Okay. On the Switch.
All right.
And in Wolfenstein, you can sneak around and kill the Nazis without being detected, or you can just burst and shoot everything you see.
That's right. Stealth element there.
And so, there's no much diplomacy there. You know, they're Nazis. There's no more discussion option possible. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But the game is still developed in a way that it provides a background, a kind of a social idea of what the world would have become if the Nazi would have won the war.
That's right. It's a fantasy in itself.
Exactly, but there's death.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a rage-filled game, you know.
Exactly, but a lot of the game conceptors start with a word first before they get to the mechanic.
Okay. How about a game like Doom? Because you're not killing any humans there. Humanoids at most, but how does that play into the picture of a fantasy? Because it's still a very violent game. There's gore, there's blood, and all that. But it's not exactly human. So, I mean, how do you explain that to a child, or is that even possible? Is that even a game to be considered?
No, I will not consider to kids. No, because I mean, the point of games like Doom, it's catharsis. You want to unload your inner violence.
Yeah.
Okay? You just want to get your gun and shoot everything you can in the most gory way possible. You want to get the biggest gun. Then you want to see the head explode, and it's fun. I like it because. And it's fantasy, which is something even more likable for me, is because, killing a two-headed mutant, I'll go for it. Okay? If it was, I don't know, if the guy was a Persian soldier
Mm-hmm.
and he was on a Syrian field, I will not. Yeah, that will be different.
Okay.
You know, that will be different. Especially if I will be wearing, I don't know, the U.S. Army sign, or if I was part of the French Army or the British Army, it will have a different. There will be a different background behind it. It will be like, oh, you're the white Western guy coming to kill the Muslims, or you know what I mean? There's more political involvement.
Exactly. So there's factions. Yeah.
There is a lot of way you can offer catharsis to children without getting into the gory, without getting into the ultra violence. Again, violence it's the cheapest way to entertain. It's the cheapest way to answer to aggression. Okay. Sex and violence usually is when people run out of imagination, run out of creativity.
That's right. That's right.
And there's a lot of games that do that very well. They're gonna be like, you know what? Okay, I'm not gonna joke with you guys. This game is just about boobs and guns. Boobs and guns. Let's call it boobs and guns. Like Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem, boobs and guns.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, no shame about it. We put it on the table. Everybody knows it. If you get it, you're not going to be disappointed because that's all we have to
Yeah, it becomes a parody in itself, so nobody takes it seriously.
Exactly.
Right?
And then you're going to be like, oh, what about Witcher 3? Okay, let's play Witcher 3. Oh, man, I have heavy philosophical dilemma at any action I make. If I decide to save that guy, I'm going to condemning another guy. I'm going to make a real decision. Yes, you're going to have naked ladies. You can go to the brothel. You can a guy in two with your sword, and you can. But the story is so deep that any mini quest is going to take you 12 to 50 hours.
But how about let's talk about Witcher 3 there, because there are several elements, and being a great game that it is, there are several elements there that would make or break a child suffering from PTSD. So, but I think the main character is one of the questions that I have, because Geralt of Rivia is being shunned by everyone, meaning he's an outcast and he's being treated as a freak. How does the child react to that? Because he or she probably the same situation where my dad gets killed as a drug dealer, and now I am an outcast in my community. I mean, it's because it's going to be so real to deal with that. I mean, how do you attack that kind of situation?
Witcher 3, I don't think an 8-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid cannot even understand the beginning of the book, the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, the geopolitical situation of the world where Geralt is in, the fact that it starts in a war battle, that you have to read already several companions of monsters to know how to fight them.
Yeah.
I don't know many kids, and I don't know many adults that go through it.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
A lot of my friends stopped playing the game because it was too heavy. It was too much reading. It was too much political involvement. It was too much thinking about. Wait a minute, I have to take care of the king decisions. What, the bloody baron's wife run away? What? Those are not the kind of things a lot of people don't want to deal with. Like having to deal with the death spirit of an unborn child. I mean, this concept goes so deep that kids don't even have a sense of what an unborn child is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if I put a kid in front of Witcher 3, you have a lot of chances to be like, I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, so he reverts back to the baser instincts where.
Yeah, you're trying to read a history book without having knowledge of history. You're gonna be okay. There's words, they're violent words, but I have no idea what they're referred to. So you do have the visual aspect. You have other games. There's a lot of kids' video games and board games that talk about the death of parents. I mean, Walt Disney is a major parents killer. I mean, every single major Walt Disney movie has parents being killed, parents being taken away from the kids. Dumbo, Bambi, Snow White. Every single one of those movies are a parent dying.
Tragedies, yeah.
Pixar movies. Every Pixar movie has a father. Pixar, there's no father in any Pixar movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's no figure father.
Yeah.
Look, Toy Stories. The kid doesn't have a dad. You don't know what the dad is. You see only the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Moana. I mean, you always have a situation where you are separated from your parents and you have to grow by yourself.
That's correct.
And you're an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like, oh, you don't belong. You feel like, oh, you treated differently. I mean, I have a daughter, so I have to watch all the Disney stuff, you know. So we watch The Descendant. The Descendant, they're all the sons of the villains. Nobody likes them.
Well, people.
And so on and so on. So you do have situations.
John and I have kids, so I mean, this is a revelation for us.
Look at all the major franchise of books and movies. It's the kid is always an outcast. Harry Potter, outcast. He live under. He's been abused physically and psychologically, and then he discovers he's a superhero. Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
The Maze Runner. All those books, they talk about an outcast. I mean, so it's all the same. And when you go to very even in the old days, it's been like that. You name any superhero you had when you were a kid. Superhero is a good example. I mean, Peter Parker is not the beautiful A class student. He's not the popular kid at school. You know, Peter Parker is the nerd. He's the scientist guy that doesn't have friends and is in love with a pretty girl that's never going to look at him.
So, you mentioning that, how do you place Batman now? Because is he still suffering from PTSD? Because he's gone on a path of...
Batman is a typical pathological criminal. Okay, he's a guy that witnessed his murder of his parents, had never been treated about it. He holds a grudge all his life, and all the grudge he built from it, that's what turned him to Batman.
That's right.
I think Dark Knight did a very good job, and even the Batman of Tim Burton and the books, of course. When you look at the Dark Knight series from Miller, it's perfect because he does explain, and I think the Batman Lego movie, does a very good job about that in a funny way to show that Batman cannot exist without the Joker. Batman do not exist without a reason for his violence to be expressed, because if there was not violence to be fought against, it would be himself, the Joker.
Okay. Wow.
If there was no crime to fight, he will be the criminal because he's a psychopath, because he's always, and even when Dick Grayson died later on, same. And Dick Grayson becomes the Red Hood. So that kid become himself a criminal. I mean, it's always that circle of violence they cannot break. One of my favorite characters in the superhero universe is Daredevil. And Daredevil is a good example of the guy that cannot kill, but is reproducing circle of violence on circle of violence. And he's always at the end of the rope. So it is in a lot of those situations, the outcast is always trying to escape that circle of violence. In the case of Batman, he doesn't escape it. In the case of Harry Potter, he gets rid of it. So you really have extremes there. And Spider-Man survived, that because he used another way to fight trauma. Humor is one of the big ways to fight trauma, and Spider-Man showed that all the time. If he wasn't joking, it would be dramatic, but it would be living every time. The graphic novel would be not fun at all. Spider-Man without the joke, that's Batman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good example there of superheroes coping with the world or seeing the world in a different, because something bad happened to them, or they don't have, even in Disney films, as you said, doesn't have their father figure, or even if there was a father figure, dismisses them totally, like in Moana and everything, right?
Yeah, in Moana, for example, she has to break out with her parents to be able to grow up, because the parents don't let her grow up. So she just run away. She's a runaway kid. She has to deal with her destiny. But if we go a little bit deeper, Deadpool. Deadpool
Uh-huh.
is when violence and sex become the easy getaway.
Okay.
Deadpool break the fourth wall and tell the people, "Hey guys, nothing of that is real. It's just a joke."
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to kill thousands of people, and I cannot be killed just because it's a joke. And that's where you lose the effort of the very difficult effort of having superheroes not killing,
Mm-hmm.
having superheroes having moral issues. Deadpool doesn't have moral issues.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and having superheroes having to make very difficult decisions. Deadpool doesn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Deadpool is the ultimate catharsis. Is like, okay, now we get into the cynicism, we get into the sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give a care anymore.
Okay.
We're done.
Wow.
Okay. So you have all those evolution into and so some video games do that very well too. You know, they're gonna be like, okay, you know what? It's just a video game. Another video game is gonna lead you to very, very more deep stuff. I mean, if you play like games like Heavy Rain, yeah, you're gonna have dilemmas and stuff that are gonna mess up with your mind. I mean,
Yeah, that's right. How about introducing a game like World of Warcraft to someone with PTSD? Because it has heavy reading, has explanation, most of the stuff, but it deals with fantasy. It's not a world that any kid would understand. But you have to pick a faction, meaning you have to at least be the monster to be able to destroy humans or human beings. So, I mean, how does that, in your examples and all?
okay, so World of Warcraft,
Uh-huh.
which is, in my opinion, a huge ripoff of Warhammer.
Yes, yes, it is. We agree.
which is himself a huge ripoff of Tolkien.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And Tolkien, the father of all heroic fantasy today, with Howard Conan,
Mm-hmm.
and Conan, Tarzan, and of course Tolkien. So those are the core of our imagination today, what we call heroic fantasy or medieval fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Those are perfect, good games to get any child into it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the factions
Mm-hmm.
are heavily characteristic of emotions and metaphor.
Okay.
Tolkien did a very good job in determining a race will be like this, so they will represent that aspect of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
This race is going to be like this, so it's going to represent. So they're full metaphor. You know, why do all the dwarves have to be work in a forge and make weapons?
Uh-huh.
Because of Tolkien. Okay, why do all the elves are immortal and beautiful and so on? Because of Tolkien. Why do all humans are very strong hearts, but they're weak in their greed and all that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Because of Tolkien. Tolkien used all those races to create different state of emotion and understanding of the world, and so there are perfect metaphors.
Yeah.
Metaphors of all the bad things in you, all the bad things in mankind, and all the good things in mankind. You know.
Uh-huh.
So when you play World of Warcraft, you're playing in it's like playing in France. Just to give you an example, in France, in French literature, in the 18th century, we had a lot of philosophers and writers that wrote about the map of the soul, the map of the heart, the map of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually people draw maps and they say, this is where greed is, this is where envy is, this is where love is, this is where passion is, this is where loyalty is. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And those maps help write books. The idea is, okay, if I'm going to write a story about a hero that's going to go through hell, but he's going to become a great person, he's going to have to follow that map, and he's going to go to grief, he's going to go to greed, he's going to go to violence, he's going to go to despair, and then he's going to reach loyalty, fame, and honor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's exactly what World of Warcraft does. And it does it such a way, such a beautiful way, that you let yourself get into it, because those emotions speak to you better than the reality around you.
Ah.
Because your loyalty to your guild, because your friendship to that clan, because your position in the world is more important than in your real life. You speak to yourself better. So those games are perfect to teach kids about loyalty, about friendship, about anger, about war, and all that kind of things. Yeah, and it's completely harmless.
So, World of
Mhm.
Warcraft is basically an MMO, right? So, would you say na um, because of the community that would also help?
The community is the best and the worst of Warcraft for two reasons. The first one, first, a kid shouldn't be involved in games like World of Warcraft without a limit of time. I see, for example, my daughter is a big Minecraft fan.
Mhm.
So we can spend hours in Minecraft building a castle, farming, digging, and killing hordes and mobs of monsters to get treasure and stuff like that. It's fun, it's nice, but if you don't, if she spends too much time into it, her mind will be into it too much. So she's gonna skip some other aspect of her growing life. Okay, growing life. That means, oh, you're missing into the your reading for school. You're missing into your learning language, into your physical activities. So you have to create also a space where everything can fit in. If you give too much space to one thing, that child brain will be focused only on that thing. And when you're a kid, you need to have those compartments in your life to be able to grow uh, in a positive way. Okay, because then you're gonna have kids like if you take away the Minecraft or the World of Warcraft, they get into a situation of anger, they get into a situation of frustration that of course defeat the purpose of gaming.
Okay.
I always tell parents, if your kid is playing a game hidden in the basement and he turn it off as soon as you come downstairs, it's because something wrong is happening. Okay, that that's not safe. That's not safe. Uh, if your kid is playing Minecraft or World of Warcraft or a game in the living room with everybody around him and he doesn't mind you stepping in,
Uh-huh.
that's safe. That
Oh,
the
okay.
kid is not doing anything wrong and he's not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
That means he knows you know, and actually you'll be able to talk with him about what's going on. That's why
Mm.
it's also important for parents to talk with the kids about their games. Like, oh, what have you been doing today in World of Warcraft? Wow, you joined that guild. Oh, you're doing this there. Oh, you level up. Oh, you change characters. Or this and that.
Okay. So
So
it's
the good,
it's an important part where if a kid is asking you or telling you about his game, it's important to be interactive or to just listen.
oh
Listen.
yeah,
Okay.
oh, it's good to listen.
Uh-huh.
It's good. It's good to know a little bit. I always encourage parents to know about the games,
Mhm.
to play with them. Sometimes, it's not a bad thing to play. That's why I love the Switch because in the Switch, man, I mean, there's no one game that I don't play with my daughter. Oh, no, that's not true. There's a couple of games I have on my. I mean, I don't play Wolfenstein with her. Never.
Well, if it's Nintendo, Nintendo, they're very big on that
Yeah.
when it comes to kids.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah, exactly, and that's why I love Nintendo is because yeah, you're gonna play World of Kirby, you're gonna play Mario Odyssey, you're gonna play Mario Kart and all the Mario games, and it's gonna be fun and it's gonna be great, and you're gonna be able to play with your kids without having to deal with all the drama and trauma of violent things
Mm-hmm.
um, like for example, if you play I mean, yeah, if you play first person shooter with a kid, yeah, there's other games that you can play with your kids that are more meaningful and as much fun, you know.
Mm.
Um,
Right. So let's get into that further. Meaning of what I mean. Even those because right now we have some parents or we have listeners who have kids or probably have brothers and sisters who are small. So in this day and age where technology has been an issue with children, they don't listen as much because they're too busy with their gadgets and all that. So let's say an age bracket of like 10 and below. um, what what games do you think are what do you call very much recommendable? I mean, versus like, is it from the range of I mean, all games like Call of Duty to games that are available on mobile like Roblox or something like that. So, I mean, what do you
Yeah.
recommend?
Okay. So, for example, so let's talk about different categories. Any game that's strategy abstract, 100% agree. That's beautiful. That's awesome. If your kid is playing Go, Onitama is playing whatever bubble explosion games, perfect. Those games are very good. Those games are excellent for the brain. They're excellent for the development of the brain. Strategy abstract, go ahead.
Mhm.
Go enjoy it. It's beautiful. I mean, if you end up with kids playing chess and Sudoku, I mean, you hit the jackpot. That's gold. I mean, I'm serious. Those are clever, funny games. Even the escape games, trying to escape a room or solving puzzle.
Mhm.
Solving puzzle games are beautiful, clever. That's perfect.
Uh-huh.
Then you're gonna have the push your luck. Push your luck. I don't like that too much, like slot games, like card games where you make money.
Yeah.
Because especially in the Philippines, I mean, gambling is a big.
Exactly.
Gambling is the main addiction, and it's a gaming addiction. That's a lot of gamers refuse to see that. Gambling is a gaming addiction, and it's one of the worst because it leads to a lot of damages and a lot of, I mean, murder, mass shooting, and family destroyed by money problems. I mean, it's terrible. Gambling very bad. So I don't advise gambling at an early age because there's the what we call vertigo. The vertigo is so strong, and kids love it so much that they want that impression that they don't have a grasp, but they can be lucky. And if you're lucky, I mean, because it doesn't require any skills. It doesn't require any skill.
Exactly.
I mean, you can play a Super Smash Bros with kids that knows how to play. You're gonna get trashed. If you play luck games, anybody can win. Monopoly, it's a luck game. Just luck. Everybody can win.
Okay.
You don't have a special skill to win. Okay, but arms, yeah, you need skills to win arms. I mean, you need to practice. You need to work out. It's like all the dance games. The dance games, for example, Just Dance.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. Awesome. That's exactly the kind of game you should be playing with your kids. One, because they're going to trash you.
Okay.
They're going to put you to shame because you're old and out of shape.
That's right.
It's good for your cardio. It's good for their cardio. It's good for the family fun. It's perfect. Yeah, I mean, nothing makes me more happy than going to arcade game and see the parents playing dance or singing or karaoke games with their kids. Beautiful. That's perfect. That's awesome. Family spirit. I mean, this is one thing that's great about the Philippines. Is here people are not afraid of singing in public, are not afraid of singing with their family. Where I come from, we don't share art unless we are artists that makes money out of it. Okay.
Okay.
So here it's beautiful that parents and children can share that because that's very valuable and it's a very good, and that requires skills and develops skills. I mean, if you play Just Dance every day, believe me, you're gonna become a good dancer. You're gonna become a good dancer.
Yeah.
Okay, and that can be a valuable skill, especially if you're a shy young boy. When you reach 15, 16, and you know how to dance, that can make a difference in your social life. Trust me. Same with singing. Singing, a very important skill, or playing an instrument. So games, playing instrument games, like the piano games, like the drum games, all those games are awesome.
Right? Guitar Hero and
yeah, exactly. All the rhythmic games. The rhythmic games are awesome. Beautiful. Those games are awesome. Play them with those kids too. Those rhythmic games are very good for their mental development, for the development of the mind, for the development of dexterity, and of course coordination. It's perfect. Rhythmic games can help a lot of kids also with focusing and being better, paying attention. So attention span is a very something you really have to be careful with the kids. And rhythmic games, it's awesome for attention span because trust me, you need to be attentive to know when to hit the beat.
Exactly.
Uh, so you see, I'm just tackling the tip of the iceberg there. There's so many games like that. But then you're going to get into games that are more popular. The big issue is my generation. Okay, I'm in my early 40s. So we started video games
Same
when we were
here.
teenagers. Video games became popular when we were teenagers. And we became, with time, good gamers in some specific games. Like I love Fallout. I'm a big Fallout fan. I love playing FPS games, and I think I'm pretty good at it. Okay, and Fortnite is a good example of how popular those games are. Fortnite is a good example of how FPS are very appreciated. But here we go. That's a game. Those are games that. Why do we have to play those games with kids when there's so many other games to play? And that's where I point out the parents is because those are the games parents like the most.
That's a good point, huh?
If you're as your parent, your kids come to see you. Hey, let's play Just Dance. Oh, let's play Just Sing. Oh, let's play I don't know, a Guitar Hero. You're gonna be like, no, thank you. Oh, let's play Fortnite. Yeah. Let's play Doom. Of course. Let's play a Silent Hill or Call of Duty. Yeah, because that's what I like today in my age. And so a lot of, and that's a big mistake parents make for movies, for books, for music, and for games is that they want to play the games they like with their kids and not the kids like.
So it becomes a satisfaction for the parents only, not really for the benefit of the kid.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh no, my 6-year-old kid is mature enough to play Call of Duty. Oh, my 6-year-old kid, yeah, he can come to watch horror movies with me at the movie theater. No, he cannot. You like it because you feel like you can do it, so your son can do it.
And on the other end, your kid is also saying, "This is because my dad likes it, and I like it when I'm playing with my dad."
Exactly.
So okay.
And because you're a superhero to your kids, they're not going to disappoint you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a bad cycle to start with. Okay. All right.
Like my daughter doesn't like Mario Kart. She doesn't like playing Mario Kart because I'm way better than her at Mario Kart.
She hates you for it.
Because I've been playing Mario Kart since the 80s, since the first Mario Kart.
Yeah, from the first Mario Kart.
Speaking of being better than your kid, is it better that you intentionally lose to your kid to build their confidence, or is there an age where you shouldn't be doing that anymore?
Okay, all depends what is your purpose in gaming at that moment. So I'll give you an example. Motivation is a very important factor for kids. Okay? So if your kid is good in something and it's something that you're not good at, then yeah, you can go gaming and you can do other stuff where you're better than your kids at. But if your kid is struggling at school, if your kids have a self-esteem problem, if your kid is not very good at much stuff, and then you keep on trashing him every time you play with him, you're not going to help his motivation.
You're not helping, yeah.
Okay? So unless you help your kids to get better, and that's why it's important to play cooperative games. Co-op games are a very good tool to increase the self-esteem of a child. Okay? You don't have to be competitive to game. Gaming is not about competition first. It's about the social aspect of it, especially board games.
Yeah.
So why do you have to be competitive right away? So as soon as you ask me the question, is it okay to let your child win? I play way more co-op games with my daughter. That's why I love role-playing games. That's why I like RPG, tabletop RPGs, because it's not a competition. We try all to work to succeed in something, and everybody has a role to play in that thing. So when we play a Mario Party, we play in the same team. When we play whatever game, I mean, there's so many games you can play co-op. Even first person shooter, you can play together as a team. I mean, it is. There's so many games you can play as a co-op and it doesn't have to be competitive. Then competition can be taught, can be taught in a way that you want to improve the skill of a child. It is unfair to play with someone that doesn't have knowledge of a certain game. For example, abstract strategy game. If you've been playing chess for 20 years and you've been studying chess and you read chess books and you're in competition and you play with your 6 years old kid and you keep on trashing him without teaching him how to play chess, yeah, you're a jerk. If you teach your kids all the things you learn and you teach him to be better and you teach him to increase himself by showing him how to do it, then you're doing the right way.
Basically looking for teaching
That's
moments.
why exactly, because your kid is not your enemy, and you're trying to build social relationship here. If you play with your teenager, 16 years old son, yeah, you can go trash it. That's good because there's big chance that he's better than you in a lot of, especially the new ones that you don't have time to practice so much and you don't have much hours in your working day life to do it. So you have to be careful about your child. Some child will play video games with you because they want to please you and not because they're good at it. Some kids will play board games with you because for the same reason. And some kids they're very good at, they want to get better. So you really have to assess what is the point of you playing that game. My dad used to play Monopoly just to beat us up, and because of that, because there was no teaching moment and there was no revenge moment. It was all about greed. We have to win, And when I play Mice and Mystics with my daughter, hey, we all fight for the same role. Stuffed fables, beautiful games like that, or choose your own adventure games like Robin Riddles and stuff like that. Beautiful. You play together. You're trying to solve together a solution, and then you both grow up out of it. You grow together. You all succeed together. When I play Mario Odyssey with my daughter and she play Cap and I play Mario, or I play Mario, or I play the Cap and she play Mario, it's awesome. We have a lot of fun. It's very nice. When we play Mario Tennis Ace, it's less fun when we play against each other than when we play together as a team. Because she's 6 years old, okay, and her eye coordination is not as good as a teenager, okay. She's not gonna run faster than a 10 years old. She's not gonna, because physically she's not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have to think about the brain of a child in the same way. Some strategy games, they're gonna be, you have 10, 20 years experience more than them.
That's right.
But rhythmic games, dance games, or luck games, yeah, I mean, anybody can win. And they're most likely to be better at you at dancing because they are more stamina. They can play Just Dance for an hour when you're only 20 minutes before you melt. So choose your battle. And there's some battles that are healthy to follow. There's some games that are healthy to not let your kids win just because he's losing. There's a lot of games like that. There's a lot of games that like Carcassonne or Ticket to Ride that you can play with your kids, and it's okay to beat them because it's about worker placement. It's about, and those require some failure before you win. Some games require error before you can actually get better. Okay. And so there are games like that, especially worker placement. Worker placement are perfect games where you can beat your kids without feeling bad, because your kid's going to learn from their mistakes. When it's chess, it's a little bit more. That's a strategy, so you can foresee ahead way more than them. So it's not fair. So choose your battle. Some games, yeah, let your kids trash you, especially if there's games like luck games. It's okay if you're not lucky. And it's okay if you make the wrong choice because instead of, oh, daddy, you should have moved all the way up instead of stopping before. Oh, sorry, honey, I didn't see. Oh, you lose. Yeah, that's okay. It's a luck game. Who cares? The dice won.
That's right. Well, given a lot of us information here, and particularly me, you've answered some of the questions that I'm struggling with my kids and everything, because they're in this tech hole that no parents is actually prepared for. I mean, we used to have some gadgets. Our age group is part of the where we were donned with all of these gadgets, but at least we still knew how to go back to that no tech space. But these guys were born with tech in their hands, and it's part of their entertainment and everything. And taking it just to say it, just I mean, it's really harder than it is. So learning how to right now, I mean, I think we've learned a lot about choosing the right games, and how to deal with the games that they have. Meaning, listening to them is actually good. Talking to them about the games that they play, getting them. I mean, if they're interested in a game, it's also good. What do you call this? A good practice to actually play with them and actually get into their lives, because there are kids, right? So, I mean, all of that. I think most of our listeners will appreciate that, particularly the parents.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to add. So we talk a lot about video games,
Yeah.
but I'm being hanging a lot around in board games cafe. I love board games cafe. I do a lot of those. I go everywhere with my daughter. We play
Uh-huh.
games everywhere we can, and it's very important to play with your kids. Not only video games, but board games. Board games, it's a different level. It's still video. It's still you still have that gaming aspect that video
Yeah.
games give you,
Exactly.
but he had a social layer that is very important. And being able to play with your kids, um, it's a key essential relationship, because they're gonna understand that technology is fine,
Mm-hmm.
and there's gonna be an age. I mean, there's an age where technology today it's you cannot live without. Okay, when you reach the terrible ages of 13, 14, 15, yeah, what you can be the better parents in the world. Your kids gonna move away from you for a good reason. Okay,
Yeah,
they
that's
need
right.
to confront that with reality. So don't feel bad when they're teenagers that they're not connecting with you as much. That's completely natural. I mean, and I would say it is healthy.
Mm.
Um, but before that, you really have to be able to create pattern of gaming where, okay, this is it. It's 4 to 6, you can play video games, whatever, but from 7 to 8, we're going to play a board game.
Oh, okay, all right.
Having constant, because that's very key with kids. If the kids knows, hey, tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I'm going to play board games with my dad, then it's reassuring for them. They know that something that's going to come up and they're going to do something at one point that's going to actually happen. Okay. And being able to schedule things like that is very healthy for a kid and his relationship of trust with adults. Because if an adult tells you, hey, tomorrow we're going to do that at 3 o'clock, and the next day you don't do it, then the kid's not going to trust you. Oh, you keep on saying that, but you never do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually do it and you have a frequency of that happening all the time, then you're going to build a way for the kids to know that, hey, you know what? No, right now I'm not going to play video games. I'm going to sit down with my parents and play board games. Or we're going to sit down and read. Or we're going to do that specific activity together.
Yeah.
And that's very important because that's how you create trust and you create security, security.
Yeah.
And if you have that, then you're gonna have a safer and more, and you're gonna trust your kids better about their relationship with technology, because it's our insecurity that shows up there. It's like, oh gosh, my son is spending 5 hours on social media and he's not telling me what he's doing. Yeah, that's our insecurity. We don't know what he's doing. Okay, we don't know what's happening there. And if we don't have those spaces where we can meet and we can have a common ground and we know it's going to happen all the time and we know the rules of it, then that connection is going to be a permanent disconnection.
Yeah.
Building
Make
trust.
sense?
And I think it will also have the kid be more open to you on whatever real world problems.
Exactly. And you know what? We're gamers. I mean, we're parents gamers, so we are cool people to talk with. We are nerds.
Yeah. I'd like to think that.
and And we all face the moment where our kids look at us as like, "Daddy, I don't care what you think. Even if you know better than me, even if you know more than me, I don't care because you're my dad." And so we all face that. So we have to be in peace with that. But we still need to have those moments of relationship and social cohesion around video games, board games, reading, adventure books or whatever, movies, in which we can communicate and share some of that world with each other.
That's right. That's right. All right. So thanks, man. Thanks for all of the information given us today. I mean, I've learned. I'm gonna start applying it right now after this show. Yeah, man. So thank you. I mean, we want to have you back. We'll get you back if you're still available. Is that fine?
Yeah, I think we didn't talk much about game development, and I think that something we can do especially some other time.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have you back. All right. So yeah, that's it. That's our show for today, and I hope you guys who are listening, you've learned a lot from them. If you're a parent listening to this, there's a lot that I think you picked up from what Juan has taught us today. All right. All right. Thank you very much again, Juan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's it. That's our show today. Thank you very much. Like I said, masyadong puro kalaro.